Best morning. Thanks for checking in. This is Steve, day 22 of the 29-day challenge. And today's challenge is called SODOM'S apple. Now, before I get into it, take a look behind me. And you can see there's a big board back there with "Don't Mess with My Process." That's the title of the book. And I've broken down the chapters and I got my notes and outline. And I'm a very visual person, so I want to see everything as I'm working on it. So I created that, and that'll kind of help me continue to organize my thoughts and maybe make connections between the chapters. That's how I write my papers, and that's why I always did really well in school on my papers and as a lawyer, because I'm super organized. And again, it's the process. So don't mess with my process. So today's day 22, and David talks about he was in Israel and hiking for 5 hours through the mountains. And extremely thirsty, and there was like no vegetation around. They finally found what looked like a rainforest on the surface of Mars. So you could imagine everything's dry and barren lands, and he finds this little patch of grass, or this little patch with like lush trees. So right away he wants to go up to the tree and grab a fruit and bite into it. And his tour guide is like, "Oh, David, stop." And he wonders, how could that, how could there be a, and he gives him something he quotes a passage from the Bible that basically says, you just got to SODOM'S apple. Like, you can't eat that apple. It's poisonous. It's a fruit from the poisonous tree. We have that term in law as well. Like if you violate the rules of evidence anywhere in, the case, like a cop violates your Fourth Amendment right or does something, everything that comes after that is called the fruit of the poisonous tree. So it's a deterrent of people breaking the rules. So you got to make sure that you follow the rules, and so even a poisonous tree can produce fruit, which appears good, but it's not, because it came from a poisonous tree. So we use the same analogy in law. They keep going, and the tour guide reads another passage where basically even in drought, you'll find a plant that will bear fruit. So he's still in the desert, and he pulls off a branch from this tree. There's no fruit, just a branch. And he's expecting a couple of drops of water, but it's like gushing water. It's the best liquid he's ever tasted. So he needed this trip to remind him that no matter what things look like on the outside, it's what's on the inside that holds the most value. So he was he goes on to talk about how he's in college and he's drinking, having hangovers, and just not feeling well in the morning. And so one of his friends takes him to what's a place called Fuel. Now he thinks it's going to be some college hangout, like a club. But he gets there and he's like, whoa, everyone's on drugs. What's going on here? Turns out everybody was high on life because it was a church group. And these people were spreading a message of joy, happiness, love, praise the Lord. They were hugging each other. I mean, there was so much love in there. And he couldn't understand it. Like, what are these people on? And that's kind of what happened at the growth day that I was just at. Like, everyone walked in kind of, apprehensive of each other, not really trying to make friends. Like, everyone was staying in their own little, zone. And Brendan made us hug. And he expressed so much passion and joy and humor that we all became like one big happy family, hugging it out, showing love to each other, asking each other how we can help them. That's the power of love. So while he's in there, he keeps coming back week after week. He's coming, and this big guy gives him a bear hug, like a big, huge hug. And he felt uncomfortable at first, just like we did at the conference. It was a little uncomfortable, like you're hugging strangers. But after the second and third day, we were literally looking forward to hugging people because we were getting so much out of it. Love is contagious. You see, I'm smiling. Love is really, right? So Brendan talked about he had an unfair advantage growing up because he received so much love. And I had the same thing. So although we struggled and we lived in in poor neighborhoods, and my parents were divorced, I received an extreme, like a lot of love from my mom. There was so much love from my dad. I mean, again, he wasn't the best dad, but he loved me. There was a lot of love. And so that's my unfair advantage. And Gary Vee talks about that as well, is his parents love the shit out of him. And when you love your kids and you give them love, they spread love when they grow up. And that's what changes people. That's what changes the world. So love thy neighbor. So he talks about, we all have this challenge in life. We want to look like we're doing good. We wonder whether we're doing better than the next person. We compare ourselves to our neighbors because you want to look like you're doing good. But what's on the inside of you? Are we concerned with doing good for a bigger purpose? Out of the genuine love and care for others? Do we serve? When we start producing joyous fruit, we stop caring about what others think of us and what society thinks of us and what our peers think of us. We know that we have something pure, genuine, and everlasting that we want to share with those around us. Brilliant. We have to share love. And so the question is, what type of fruit are you going to make? Because we can have the best intentions and be good people at heart and think that we're doing well, but we could still be producing bad fruit, right? Because if we're taking in poison somewhere, if we're not following our faith, if we're doing something that's counter to a good healthy, loving life, then you're producing fruit that could be poisonous. So his blueprint action plan for today is, he's got pictures of 3 apples and then 3 pies. He wants us to write down 3 specific examples of when we've put negative things into the world. And then follow the arrow from that apple to a pie and see how we can turn our rotten fruit into something better. Like making lemonade out of lemons, right? So this was a difficult one, and he says this is going to be a grueling self-examination. But you'll feel better afterwards. So my first one I thought of is, I have overwhelming feelings sometimes because I feel overwhelmed. There's just so much to do, so much I want to do. I'm not getting it done. And I've learned that feeling overwhelmed is not a healthy feeling. And it spreads stress and anxiety to those around me, including myself. So when I feel overwhelmed, I need to take a step back, slow down to speed up, and maybe do something productive that we have been putting off for a while. Take something that maybe not even one of your tier 1 items, not something that's the highest on your importance, but just take something that's a good, fun, healthy, productive activity and get it done. And I'll feel better about it because it's one less thing on the list. And it wasn't just like something that, like a chore. Try to do something that you've been holding off for a while. So for example, maybe print out some pictures, create an album, maybe paint something with the kids. Just like a mini project or something that I've been wanting to do or you needing to do at home. Do that, feel better about it, and then don't feel so overwhelmed because, hey, I'm getting stuff done and I'm getting things done that are producing love. And I'm spending time with my kids and my wife while doing it, right? And so that's one way. So next time I feel overwhelmed or my mind tries to make me feel overwhelmed, I'm going to remember that and slow down and say, no, you know what? We're going to make a cherry pie instead. Okay. Next one is, sometimes I make people feel guilty because we're not keeping up with our tasks, or they're just not following their dreams, or they've made mistakes in life. And so I kind of call them out on it, or I call myself out. And so I create these feelings of guilt. And so what I need to do for myself and for those around me is to be graceful and to lift them up. And instead of, and I can remind them of their issues and their fallbacks and their, where they need to do better, but only if I have solutions. Don't bring up a problem without offering a solution, a healthy, good solution, because then you're just ripping people and you're not actually you're just tearing them down. So it's okay to rip somebody if you can then help mend them, if you can also fix it and stitch them up and show them, look, this is the way to fix these things. Let me help you. And the only reason I'm showing you that you have a problem is because I want to help you. You can't just show people they have problems. Come with the solution first and then identify the problem so they can implement the solution. It's a good one, right? Next is this personal development stuff. I can't just shove it down my family's throat, right? I came back from this conference. I've been studying this stuff for years. I'm writing a book. So I'm all about this. But my family, my wife, she listens, she does some of the stuff, but she's not like me into this. And my kids are, they're still young. So my son's kind of, my older one is picking up on some of the stuff. But I can't shove it down their throats, because what's going to happen is it's going to create a negative feeling, a negative environment. And that's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to accomplish, right? I want to have a happy family, a productive family. So in order to do that, I need to include them in my process, explain to them and show them why I do things the way I do them and why they should too, and encourage it and just kind of little by little, baby steps. Lead by example. And don't get upset if they're not receptive right away. It takes time. And not everyone is ready to receive information when I think so. God has another purpose and he's not ready or she's not ready yet. And so when they're ready, they'll receive it. So my job is just to wait, hold that message, and maybe try again. So wait and hold that message until I feel like that person is ready to receive it, and then maybe try again. And in the meantime, try not to get upset. And so you just don't get upset, do your thing, make my own pie, and just understand that they're not ready. But eventually, we'll be making these pies together.